Gentlemen No Class is proud to be a part of the HC Universal Network. Gentlemen No Class is produced, mixed, and edited by M5 Studios.
This podcast contains explicit language and is intended for adult audiences. The views and opinions of Gentlemen No Class are strictly for comedic purposes and should not be taken literally. For instance, like this disclaimer. Now grab yourself a pint and enjoy.
Ready to go, Donnie. Welcome to another episode of Gentlemen No Class, a podcast. And when the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. I'm Jake.
Paul.
I'm Rob.
And like it or not, gentle ladies and gentlemen, we are the hosts for this tonight's episode. I was going to say this evening's episode. But I don't
Paul's not going to talk much because he's stuffing his face full of pizza.
Yeah, you got a little bit on your mustache right there, Paul.
So welcome to week 17 of the coronavirus lockdown.
Week 17?
No, it's not. It's like week 7.
Yeah,
it feels like
it, right?
Yeah. Is it?
Well,
I don't know. Is it May or August?
It's May. And you know what sucks? In a couple of weeks, it would have been Comic Palooza.
Yeah, it does suck.
Yeah, no shit.
But R.I.P. for 2020.
Yeah, and Fandemic too.
Yeah, well, they were going to do it before. Coronavirus are not doing it canceled, probably.
Yeah, I mean, Fandemic, I mean, it's...
Corona wasn't working last year. What was their excuse?
I don't know.
I
don't know. We got promised an interview with Jason David Frank, and we got shafted on it. You remember that?
I think I do remember that.
Remember we drove all the way to the Galleria.
Why you gotta bring up old shit? You're right. You're right.
No, fuck them. We're not doing that shit anymore. Fuck Fandemic Tour. They suck.
I don't think you ever burned bridges, though.
I'm not trying to burn bridges, but they ain't asking us to do anything for them. So he was even talking about not coming back to Houston because he didn't sell enough tickets here.
Well, I mean, that was a given last year or 2 years ago.
Is that off record or on the record?
Okay, you can't do that. I know you're not trying to talk into the microphone because you're eating, but nobody can hear you.
Hey, I'm trying to practice what we said about my laughter.
There you go.
There you go.
Now we can hear you.
You know, these mics are pretty badass. You don't have to be really on the mic. You can be a foot away.
All right.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You probably should be a foot away because your volume is pretty hefty.
It is. Your voice carries very, very well.
Yeah, that's what my physicist teacher don't work.
Your physicist teacher.
Or, I mean, what's
Physical education?
No, not physical. What chemistry?
Physics.
Physics.
There you go.
Sorry.
GMO.
He told me that. He's like, your voice carries, and I kept going. He kept telling me he's like, hey.
I want to turn that mic toward you though.
Your voice carries.
There you go. Yeah.
It doesn't carry. It doesn't carry well enough for you to point the mic at the fucking wall.
Sorry, I just had to do my mouth.
So let's get to some news. So apparently, there's been some lawsuits against the WWE.
Oh, really?
Yeah, accused of misleading some investors in a Saudi Arabia relationship.
No, there's a rumor going around that Vince McMahon may be selling the WWE or looking for a buyer.
I wouldn't. Why wouldn't you at that
Triple
point?
H.
You know
Well,
what I mean?
if that comes out, like there's lawsuits going on, maybe there is something going
Triple H
on behind.
well,
he's trying to retire. He doesn't want to do
no,
that
I think
shit.
he would. I mean, he's into the family, but I think what will happen is that he wants to take NXT, which is another platform under the WWE umbrella, and make that into something.
Well, he
huge.
just lost a shitload of money on fucking XFL when
that sucks. They were
tits
doing
up
good.
after 6 games.
Weren't they doing good before all this shit?
Yeah, money still has to continue going though, and if you're shut down, I mean,
yeah, that's the whole thing.
And I think no insurance policy will take that because it's your freaking
Vince
year.
McMahon probably that whole thing probably hinged on them making X amount of dollars per game,
and it was going well. I thought,
and it was going well. I mean, a couple of good things came out of it. That one quarterback got drafted into the NFL.
From Houston, yeah. I forgot his name.
I did too, but I mean, who cares?
We're undefeated. That was going to be our championship.
That was it.
Untainted championship.
Again, another one gone.
If you got, I mean, going back to selling and buying, what would you guys, who do you think would buy?
So good. Why?
The WWE if they were to sell.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's so many like freaking oil tycoons out there, which probably are not doing well right now.
Like person of interest, I was only saying Triple H because I thought he was really he's married his daughter and I don't know. I thought
think it's going to be out
still like the families with Vince and all that shit and I thought he'd be like.
If he would sell WWE, I doubt he'll go to Triple A. I don't think it's gonna. It's gonna be someone else, you know. But I think that he will not sell like like the NXT, or it would just be straight WWE. I don't think it'll be like SmackDown or anything like that, because I think they're separate. Don't quote me on that. I don't know, but I heard that maybe Triple H wants to be running the NXT and bring that up as big as WWE eventually. Which I don't know. I'm not into the wrestling game anymore. Really,
whatever.
I really am not.
You just said you were the one who brought this up. A rumor. You must have heard it somewhere.
Yeah, because it's on comicbook.com.
Oh,
and I get the feed all the time on my Facebook. If you must know, sir.
Well, okay. So
you guys must know that this mini boss is awesome.
Is it?
Yeah, you can definitely have one, sir.
I'll
break you off one.
I had the Last Wicket Awesome for lunch today.
Oh yeah. How was that, Rob?
It was delicious.
I would like one here tonight, but I guess it's not here.
Not gonna happen.
Space Train, please.
Aren't they canning Space Train now?
Man, I saw a picture on their Instagram at Eureka Heights, and they're not canning it. It's not on their online website for the drive-through pickup.
I think it was.
It probably was at one point, but I wish they would do it. That'd be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, big shout out to Eureka Heights. They're still doing great stuff over there. So 914 West 18th Street. Is it 914?
You son of a bitch. You would tell me that, wouldn't you?
It's on West 18th Street. I know that.
Can't miss it.
It's yeah, they're doing drive-by pickups. You get tote bag right now. If you go buy a case, buy a case, you get a nice canvas tote bag from Eureka Heights. I'm trying to talk Evan into letting me use their intellectual property and making some hats.
Oh, nice.
I was like, because I want a red hat, and he's like, "What do you want a red hat for?" I was like, "Because I don't know. I like
God damn it.
I like red hats."
Oh, that makes sense now. And red does look good on you, Rob. Actually.
And anyway, it wasn't flying, so he was like, "I don't know." I was like, "Well, I'm just going to do it anyway."
Yeah,
so,
okay, yeah. They have these. I think they're called tackers. I don't know. I think it's like a magnetic pin. And it has
they're. I thought they were signs.
Nah,
like that one.
Oh, are they?
They're tack up metal.
Is
signs.
that what that is? Oh
so.
Shit! If that's the case, I'm gonna go swing by and get one then.
Yeah, that's that. The Buckle Bunny sign is the one that we used to play pin the tail on the
no
Buckle
shit.
Bunny.
That's
at
not bad
our,
for $25. For $25, that's not bad.
I think that's what I paid for that one.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I'm gonna swing by then. Get the mini boss.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, big shout out to all the craft brewers and stuff like that, keeping Houston going, keeping this quarantine fuel flowing.
Oh yeah.
A couple other things. Jake, you could probably comment on this. Okay. Disney's just announced they're going to do a live action remake. I'm doing air quotes. Yeah. Live action remake of Hercules.
Why?
What?
Why?
How's Arnie feeling?
And I was
exactly.
I was like, well, I mean, is The Rock going to play Hercules?
No shit.
So there's been a lot of casting.
He did
Conan. Was there Conan remake?
No, I think
there was, but he didn't play. Jason Momoa played Conan, didn't he?
Oh,
I don't know. I don't remember.
I'll look that up.
But I know he did. I think he did do Hercules. Or
there was a Hercules movie that The Rock did.
Who did the TV show?
Kevin Sorbo.
There you go, Kevin Sorbo.
Damn it.
He was kind of. I won't say.
So
he wasn't begging, but
here's some of the casting rumors. You got to go. So Hades. Some of them I really like. I really think they should just bring back the actor that did the voice. Like, Phil the Satyr should be Danny DeVito. Like, Danny DeVito should just do that character. You know what I mean? Like, it was just such a good performance that I think that it should be kept going. But some of the other ones, some people suggested Willem Dafoe as Hades.
Oh, okay.
Some people suggested Jeff Goldblum.
William Dafoe.
William Dafoe. I think William Dafoe. So
he's got
Jeff Goldblum.
I'm
trying to figure out.
Yeah. So my picks are either Chris Hemsworth or Zac Efron.
It would be Chris
as
Hemsworth.
Hercules. Jeff Bridges as Zeus. Emma Stone as Megara. Okay. Key and Peele as Pain and Panic, the two little demons. Mm-hmm. And then Danny DeVito as Phil the Satyr. Either him or Paul Giamatti.
There you go.
Paul Giamatti,
now you're talking. Now you're speaking my language.
And then, like, there were some other ones that some people threw out there, like Ariana Grande as Meg. there were some ones like let's see.
Jim
Carrey as Hades was another one that got thrown out. So yeah, I mean it'd be super interesting.
Yeah, why not? They're remaking.
They're remaking all the other ones. All the rest of them have sucked. So I don't. I mean, hopes are not high. The Lion King one was fucking terrible. I don't care what you say. The only good one.
It was terrible, but it's still worth the watch. I mean,
is it?
Yeah.
I couldn't make it through it.
Couldn't make it through it.
I couldn't make it through Aladdin either.
I never seen Aladdin, so I can't really knock on it.
Yeah, Will Smith was fucking terrible as a genie.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go ahead and say it.
You would say it.
Why would I? Why are you putting that on me?
No, because I don't know.
Why? Because why?
I don't know. I just felt like saying it.
Oh. In other news, there was a rumor swirling around that they did announce that the third Spider-Man movie will have home in the title.
Okay.
So that's been swirling around, and there were some rumors that Charlie Cox was tapped to play Daredevil again.
Okay.
In the Spider-Man movie. And he came out this week and said,
though.
"No,
yeah,
that's not happening.
Yeah, it's not happening. He should though.
He should. I think that they should bring that over. I mean, it would be cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you watched all the Netflix shows?
No, have not actually. I have a life. Sick burns.
Have you? I don't know if it's out yet. Have you seen the Kevin Smith He-Man trailer?
No, I have not. No,
by the way, you were right. It was Jason Momoa. 2011. Conan
Pretty sure I just watched that like last week. I'm running out of movies to watch.
Damn.
How dare you? I got like 2,000 movies.
Yeah, but they're all garbage. Or I've seen most of them.
They're all garbage. How dare you?
Even Heavyweights?
Spit at the hand.
I need to watch Heavyweights.
Spit at the hand that feeds you the movies.
She would love that. That and Little Giants, too.
Little Giants, that's good.
Little Giants. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, we have that,
Nick
too. That's good. Ed O'Neill.
Freaking Iceman.
Icebox.
Icebox, yeah.
Icebox, yeah.
Iceman is the what's that one mayor from New York back in the day? During 9/11.
Michael Shannon.
Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah, he looks like the Iceman that they uncovered in Siberia. You know, so doesn't he look like Rudy Giuliani? Google him. Google the Iceman.
Google it.
And the Rudy Giuliani comparison, I swear. Other news, the Pentagon declassified those UFOs again.
Finally. And said that they were, came out and said, yes, we don't know what those are. So they're, what did Tom call? UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. So it's been all these years, and, these things are finally coming out. The Pentagon's declassified these videos and said, that's a big deal. Even though they were out and we all saw them, for the Pentagon to acknowledge them as such, that's a huge deal.
But what did they say? Like, it wasn't military. It wasn't us. Doesn't mean it wasn't another military.
Well, exactly. Well, they said they don't know what they are.
Yeah,
that's what they said. They said this is not our tech, is what they said. Which basically, like, you wouldn't come out and say that unless you were 100% positive that nobody else had tech, anything like that, and you were pretty safe to say that's not our tech. We don't know what it is.
We don't know what it is.
You know what I mean? You don't want to put that out there to the Russians or anybody else and be like, oh, this tech exists. Somebody has it. You don't want to come out and say it's not ours, but it may be somebody else's. You say this is not ours, but we don't know what it is.
Exactly. Take this the high road. Be safe about it. Put that safety net out there.
Exactly.
But no, come on. You can't tell me that does not look like Rudy Giuliani.
I forgot I'm supposed to do that.
I thought that's what you were laughing at.
Travis sent me a picture of somebody. This is
Travis Walton?
Yeah, Travis Walton, yeah.
Not Dozier, we keep in contact, man. He says the aliens are cool, man.
Oh, Walton?
No
of course, yeah.
No problems, man.
Tell him I got some syrup for him.
That's fucked up. The scream is so horrific.
You seen Fire in the Sky?
No, I haven't watched it.
We haven't.
Yes.
Watch it.
But I've heard that it's terrible and it's not an accurate representation of...
Get the hell out of your own studio.
I've heard that it's not an accurate representation.
What sucks about that movie, though, like what Travis said, I read an interview.
Walton,
I talked about this.
Walton, not Dozier.
Yeah, exactly. Travis Walton, yes.
He was saying that, unfortunately, because ID4, Independence Day, was coming out at the same time, and some of the aliens he did encounter were similar to what he described, like what they look like in ID4.
I thought that it came out at the same time as Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
No, this came out like 94.
94, something like that.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Mid-90s, yeah. So there's a lot of compromises, unfortunately. So they had to change a lot of things up, and they don't want to think that like because of this movie's coming out, it's too similar to this, and want to stand out different. It just fucked it all up.
I think what it was is because the aliens that he encountered were like humanoid. They looked like humans. Maybe with a little bit, bigger eye sockets, and now it didn't really look like.
Didn't it have blonde hair too?
Blonde hair, yeah.
What's that Nicolas Cage movie? I just watched a really shitty Nicolas Cage movie with the aliens.
Oh, The Knowing.
The Knowing,
that's pretty good. That's a pretty good movie.
That's a fucked up ending, though.
It is a fucked up ending. I watched
that plane crash scene was graphic.
It was graphic.
Fuck me.
Oh no, that one was okay. The one that I watched yesterday was
Ghost Rider.
Was
right,
Next.
Yeah. Next.
Have you seen Next?
No.
Oh. Yeah, where everything's like he could predict.
2 minutes into the future. Yeah.
It was hilarious. So many scenes like Jessica Biel. Like
that's the scene, like the meme you always see of him like dodging the bullet. Like that.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
It's ridiculous looking.
No, my favorite Cage meme is the one with his eyes. I think it's from Leaving Las Vegas. Or no,
it's
another one. No,
it's from Vampire Diaries or something.
Okay, yeah.
Where he's
that
like
fucking face. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. No, basically.
That's hilarious.
And he is the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, he
hilarious.
But Francis Ford Coppola did not want him to use his name, or
you know why? No, you know why he didn't want to be associated with Coppola. He wanted he's a big time comic book fan. That's why he wanted to be a Ghost Rider. But he liked Luke Cage, and that's the reason why.
He named himself after
Luke Cage. Yeah.
Interesting.
No,
but
did not know that.
Have you seen Tim Burton was going to do a Superman movie? And
he's cast as Superman. It's hilarious looking. Yeah, he had long hair and everything. Well, I'm sure he's going to get his haircut. This was
in the 90s?
I think it might have been in the 90s or late 80s, maybe. This was definitely when Reeves was still alive. Thanks, Paul.
Alarms. Sorry.
I swear, every episode there's an alarm. I wonder what goes on at like 9 o'clock.
I take my
you talking about this one?
Taking zinc.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
It's from Vampire's Kiss. Vampire's Kiss.
Load up that zinc and smoke that shit. Yeah.
So I watched. I've been binge watching movies while I'm working. I'm running out of things to do. So
the joys of working at home.
So I watched this movie called Sucker Punch today. Have you seen it?
I heard of it.
It's all right.
It's a complete letdown of a movie.
Is it really? No.
Like
you watched it. They saw you coming.
I know. I mean, it looked good.
Yeah, anime-looking chicks.
Yeah.
I bet you like that, Paul.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
What was the main
like
girl's name? The little girl?
Baby doll?
Baby doll.
Yeah.
There we go.
Like you had that face of what's that porn star Ron Jeremy in Boondock Saints when he's at the jerk off station and the strip club.
The sunglasses or some shit. Yeah. Fuck you. I bet I did.
I need to go back and rewatch the Boondock Saints.
That's a great movie.
I need to go back. I need to watch that, and I need to rewatch Reservoir Dogs. And,
great movie, Mr. Pink. Yeah,
I need to go back and rewatch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I never get tired of watching that movie. I love it. Yeah, that and The Irishman. I
haven't seen The Irishman. I need to watch that.
It's long, but I love watching both of those movies. I don't mind.
I did finally watch Casino.
Oh, nice! What'd you think of it?
What the hell?
It was fucking great.
You like the movie?
Yeah, it was fucking great, man.
Fucked it all up. What the fuck?
Yeah, go get one of them Danish. She loves Danish.
Pesci saying in the end we fucked it all up. What the fuck? He's the one that was fucking unstable, going crazy.
Oh yeah,
fucking shit up. Everybody was cool.
Joe Pesci is your Raph.
Yeah, in that movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it's like whenever he's getting beat with the bat and the bat's coming out, like, oh no!
No, actually, he says, "Oh no" in Goodfellas.
Oh, what's Goodfellas? Yeah. You're right.
It was just, he was saying, he's like,
that's right.
But it's funny because if you pay attention though, because in Goodfellas, Joe Pesci's character beats Billy Bats, that famous scene. The guy who hits him with the bat in Casino. That's the same actor.
Yeah,
Bats. So it's like Billy Bats getting his revenge.
Yeah.
Nice.
But
Goodfellas was
before
1990.
1990. Okay. Yeah, Casino's 95.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fucking good movie, man.
Yeah.
Like I expected it to go a different direction. Like Robert De Niro kind of got screwed. His character got screwed though, like the whole movie.
Yeah.
Because he I mean, he married a fucking hooker, and that's what happens.
He turns to gold dust at the end.
Man.
Yeah.
Yes.
with the gold fucking get up that she had.
Yeah.
Outfit,
and she was dead.
Haircut.
And she still, I mean, he had it all set up. I mean, it was a good fucking movie, but like
James Woods, yeah,
looking
great.
The country card shark, a moocher, scumbag. Fucking love when he's just country club golf cart hustler.
What does Pesci say? $100 to whoever hits the fucking.
Oh yeah, $100 hits the plane. Fucking.
Fucking
feds.
It's a great movie.
Yeah,
maybe we'll do a commentary on that.
I don't know if we can do a commentary on that.
Sure.
It's pretty long. It's
okay,
great,
I guess
though.
it is long. It is a long movie.
It
is a long movie.
It's easy for me to do commentary. Trust me.
Yeah.
And I watched all of the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Yeah, you did.
What?
Except for Tokyo Drift, I refuse to watch that movie again.
Yeah, I was
tell Josh he ruined that.
Why did you
movie.
punish yourself?
Well, because we watched the first one, then I like watching franchises because it gives me a continuing storyline to watch. You know what I mean? So, like, I was like, you can see on the Vudu account, like, I keep making these folders, like Underworld.
Oh, yeah.
I watched all the Underworld movies,
like,
and then Fast and the Furious. I watched all the Rambo movies. You know what I mean? Like,
I pissed them off. I made a Westerns folder.
I like that one. I'm going to start watching
That's great.
those.
Great. I love Westerns. I'm like, I mean, he's going to make fun of me because
that was cool. Well, I didn't know you could do that, so I was like, well, maybe it'll help like organize them a little bit better.
Just to get to the movie faster.
You can have
you can make folders. So I have like an 80s cult classics and Back to the Futures and John Hughes movies. It's a new feature on Vudu where it's just like a little subcategory that says list.
It's new?
Yeah, they just updated that like maybe a month ago or 2 months ago.
Yeah, I've been making lists and I just put like Rambo and then like
exactly Rambo.
Stuff like that. And so
like the 007s is like 20 some odd movies.
Yeah,
in
they're
there.
all right there. You know what I mean?
And I put them in order from like release date.
And you can put them in order of release date, but it's backwards. I don't like that. It goes from the newest movie at the top to the oldest movie.
Yeah,
and if you want to watch them in order, you want to watch them the oldest movie to the newest movie.
Yeah, I manually did that shit. I manually put them in order.
Oh no, but you can click sort by release date.
Fuck that. Yeah, I actually took the time and effort. IMDb, fucking 72, 68. I did that shit.
If you open the movie, it's already embedded in the metadata.
Yeah, but the thing
there.
is, I don't want to open up every single fucking movie when I can have a list on my phone. I'm like, bam, okay. Octopussy, bam, whatever.
Okay, so that's good to know. Maybe I'll hit the James Bond movies next. Yeah. Maybe that may be my next.
That'd be
one.
a haul.
I've only seen a couple of them of the older ones. So,
well, out of what was it? Who's the guy that played in Tomorrow Never Dies? Is it,
Pierce Brosnan?
Yeah, him or the new James Bond?
Daniel Craig, 100%.
Yeah,
oh yeah, he's way
Craig
better.
Fucking great, amazing.
Who's your favorite James Bond?
I'm not big into it, so I don't know.
James Bond, but you've got
James Bond Jr.
is really fucking good.
The cartoon.
He learned the game from his Uncle James.
Daniel Craig just sells it.
That's part of the theme song.
Is it really? Damn,
James Bond Jr.
Fuck, do you remember that
I don't
shit,
know.
Man?
It was catchy as fuck,
as fuck. I do remember that.
He learned the game from his Uncle James.
He
looked like Wheeler from fucking Captain Planet.
Yes!
What
the hell? It only had like maybe a 2-year run. How
I don't know, man.
It's fucking awesome. Okay, sorry, Paul.
I just love Daniel's Craig character too, and Knives Out, man. Fucking
he was great. You know what makes Daniel Craig like what makes him the best modern Bond? And I haven't seen enough of Roger Daltrey's movies, and I haven't seen enough of Sean Connery's movies, and I haven't seen enough of Timothy Dalton's movie. Timothy Dalton's only in one movie, I think.
Yeah, there's one.
Not Roger Daltrey. Right. That's the guy from
The Who.
The Who. But you know who I'm talking about? The guy who did the most.
Right.
He was in like Goldfinger
after Connery, right?
Yeah.
They put him on Family Guy, right?
I think so.
That's it, fine.
But anyway,
3 days.
You know what makes Daniel Craig like the hardest core modern Bond is that scene at the end of Casino Royale after he has won all that money from Mads Mikkelsen's character, and they strip him down naked and stick him in they punch
chair.
They stick him out, and they bust out the bottom of that chair and have that fucking monkey's fist and just sort of like tapping him, fucking hitting him in the nuts.
Yeah.
I've never seen that movie.
It's fucking
dude,
great.
It's
fucked up,
dude.
He's
laughing at him.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my
I was about
God.
to say that. It's just, I have a little scratch. It's just right here to the left. Could you just please get it or some shit like
He's
that?
like, you're going to have to go to jail and tell all these motherfuckers that you were scratching my balls.
Yeah. Laughing about it. He's just taking it.
And he's just taking it. Oh my God, it's terrible. So anyway, maybe that's another. We can have a.
Yeah.
We need to get somebody who's big into that we can have. Like, we should all make that a
homework assignment.
Yeah, and watch. Let's call it the majority of. Yeah. Let's try to watch at least a solid 10 and one of each Bond and of each
character.
Yeah,
Bond,
and see which one we prefer.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm down with that.
That'd be a cool episode.
We'll forecast that like in like 4 months from now. Yeah,
it all depends. If we schedule a guest, and they don't show up,
sick burn.
Wasn't towards anybody.
No,
no.
We didn't have anybody scheduled for tonight. At least I didn't. Not in my mind.
Yeah. No one that had a beard or anything like that. A nice beard.
A sexy beard.
So tonight I'm gonna run the podcast tonight because this is a topic that I wanted to talk about.
Put that shit to a vote.
I told Jake and Paul not to research this because I wanted to.
Happily obliged.
I wanted to quiz them on it because I think it's an interesting phenomenon that could have a couple of different causes and effects, and I wanted to talk about what could be the possibilities and the outcomes of each one. So tonight we're going to talk about the Mandela Effect, and so the Mandela Effect is named as such because it's named after the phenomenon of multiple people. And we're talking millions of people seemingly separated by, nothing connecting them, remembering specific events or specific things completely separate from each other, and swearing that these things happened, but they never actually happened. They happened a different way. And these things were remembered a specific way, and it takes its name from civil rights leader Nelson Mandela, who in the late 70s, early 80s, he was a civil rights leader in South Africa during the big time of apartheid, and he was jailed. And there are a lot of people, millions of people around the world that remember him dying in jail. Mm-hmm. He did not die in jail, though. He was released, and he became once apartheid was ended, they elected him as the president of South Africa.
Right.
And he died many years later after that. But there are people that swear up and down that they know that he died in jail. They remember specific events and things surrounding that and ramifications of it. But there's no evidence to back it up. So this effect goes on and on. I've gotten a couple of examples. I wrote down some examples.
Yeah.
After some things, and some of these are just like some of these are not as like push forward as Nelson Mandela. They're not like in the forefront like that. But I'm just going to kind of quiz you guys on a couple of things. And we can talk about what the correct answer is, and then we'll kind of go from there. And remember, a lot of these are not like what they are now, but what they have been.
Right. Like,
can you remember back 15, 20 years ago when you were a kid, basically? So you're going to be trying to tap into like your memory from when you were like a preteen or whatever. Okay. So. Peanut butter.
Yeah.
Was it Jif or Jiffy peanut butter?
Jif or Jiffy?
Jiffy.
Yeah, I think it was Jiffy.
It was never Jiffy peanot butter, ever. It was always Jif peanut butter.
And I did that because Mandela Effect in effect, because Paul said Jiffy. I'm like, it's Jiffy.
That's not how it works, is it? I don't think that's how it works.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Okay.
Looney Tunes.
Yes.
Was it Looney Tunes like TOONS, tunes like cartoons, or tunes like in music, TUNES.
No, TOO. Yeah.
TOONS.
NES, I think, or. But I think it's TOONS. Yeah.
Like cartoons, like Looney Cartoons. Like
Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
No, it's Looney Tunes, like the music. TUNES. Always has been.
I'm fact check you, sir. Now go ahead. Interesting.
Next one.
Bullshit.
Yeah, bullshit.
Curious George.
Yeah.
You know who Curious George is?
Yeah,
The beloved comic, kids book character, the monkey.
Yeah.
Does he have a tail?
Yes. He should. He better. I better not get this shit wrong.
He did. He had a tail.
He does not have a tail and has never had a tail.
Hey, I don't watch that shit every day.
That fucker's fucking got a yellow fucking handler anyway.
The books.
Yellow wearing handling.
Back to kids books.
Fuck him anyway.
Back to kids books.
Okay.
The Berenstein Bears.
Yeah, I know about this for sure.
Okay. Was it the Berenstein Bears or was it the Berenstain Bears? STAIN.
No, I think it's
from what I know, it was Berenstein.
STEIN.
No,
not Berenstain.
It is Berenstain.
Yeah, I know. But growing up,
I do too. I remember it as being the Berenstein Bears.
That was one of my favorite books when I was young.
Right, and I had a bunch of them.
AIND?
It's AIN.
Yeah, not like Steen.
Steen. Yeah.
Berenstain. It's not Berenstain.
Yeah, you're right. Now that you say that, now I do remember the A.
So, okay, so here's another one. The Sarah Jessica Parker TV show. Mm-hmm. Carrie Bradshaw was a huge TV show. What was it called? You remember?
I mean, the only
Sarah Jessica Parker and who?
Sex in the City is the only one I think.
What's the name of the TV show?
With who?
I think it's.
Is it Terry Bradshaw?
No, Carrie Bradshaw is her name in the show.
Oh no, I don't.
I thought it was Sex in the City.
Is it Sex in the City or Sex and the City? I think
it's Sex in the City.
Sex in the City.
It's Sex and the City.
Okay. Oh. And your point being, sir? These are all things I'm kind of like, whatever.
I know, and that's kind of the point. Okay, so we'll get into some other stuff.
Now, give me some more. I'm gonna fight back.
All right, that's fine. Back.
I need to redeem myself.
Febreze.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Is it 2 E's or 1 E in the middle?
Excuse me.
It's that in the middle right there.
Need some Febreze in here now.
Yeah. 2 E's.
I think it's a trick question. I'm going for 1, baby.
It is 1 E.
It's the trick question.
No, you wanted to believe it was 2 E's, though.
No, why? You don't know me. Get out of my
mind. You say you're fighing back.
You don't speak for me.
Mind.
Don't speak for me.
You don't know
myself.
What if I do?
Good, baby.
All right.
I really thought it was 2 E's.
Yeah, that's what I fucking told.
Oscar Mayer.
Wiener.
Armor hot dogs.
Is it
spelled Armor hot dogs?
Is it spelled MEYER or MAYER?
No, it is. It's MA.
It is MA.
Yeah, because
I always thought it was ME.
Yeah, because I'm like, why is it Meyer? Like Mayer. It's supposed to be like John Mayer.
The shoes, Skechers.
Oh, okay. It's an SC. There's no K.
It is a SK, but there's no T in it.
Oh, fuck me, man.
There's no T in the middle.
You would think tomato. I got you. I give you one, man.
Fruit Loops. The cereal Fruit Loops. How do you spell fruit in Fruit Loops?
It should be FRUIT.
That's the correct way to spell it.
Okay, but it doesn't. So let me see.
It's
FRU with the fucking a German accent over the U.
That's
for the long U.
It's an umlaut.
Umlaut.
Well, I'm not white. So
no, it is. It is FROOT. 2 O's.
Oh no shit! Yes, it is. You're right.
It is Fruit Loops because the O's they're circular.
Yes, you know what I mean? Nice. I like this.
There's a famous painting. There's a famous painting of King Henry VIII, and a lot of people swear that this painting had him painted with a turkey leg in his hand. And I know that you can picture it in your mind, and you're like, "Yeah, this motherfucker had a turkey leg in his hand." But there was never any turkey leg in his hand. Here's a couple of we'll do a couple of fast ones. The Monopoly man, the Monopoly guy.
Yeah,
you must be the Monopoly guy.
Does he have a monocle?
No, he does not.
He does not have a monocle
in the game. But I think when he's advertised,
never.
No, he never
had a monocle.
Okay,
yeah.
You must be.
You must be the Monopoly guy. Dude, not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Definitely you. Fucking eyes.
All right. Maybe you can get this one. Pikachu's tail.
Yes, it's a lightning bolt.
It's a lightning bolt. Does it have a black tip on the end of it?
Ooh,
like his ears?
Fuck me, man. I don't think it does. I think it has a black streak on it, but I don't think it has a black tip. Just the tip, Paul.
It doesn't. It's solid yellow.
Solid yellow.
A lot of people, if you see the animated, like the cartoon of it with the black tip, though, you would swear that that's what it looks like, but it doesn't. The Fruit of the Loom logo. What does the Fruit of the Loom logo look like?
Fruit bowl or fruits with or certain fruits like a fucking set of grapes and a banana and all that shit. Like
maybe in a what do you call it? The fuck you call those things?
A cornucopia.
Cornucopia. There you go.
There is no cornucopia. Never has been.
Never been. Yeah.
I looked at that logo today for about 10 minutes, and I could have sworn I had to really, really look at it, and I'm like,
they're fucking with you.
I know,
Rob. They're fucking with you. There was one 10 minutes ago.
Never has.
Now there's not
there
one.
There was one 10 minutes ago.
In the song, "We Are the Champions" by Freddie Mercury and Queen, obviously.
Really? That's who
There's a line at the end of the song when they sing "We Are the Champions." Do they ever say "of the world" in that song? At the end of the song, "We are the champions
of them all,
of the world."
I think it's of them all.
That line doesn't exist in the song in any recorded version of that song ever. Yeah, help yourself to anything in the fridge.
I swear, like, because
I can hear it in my head.
Yeah, no, me too.
Never happened.
It's not never.
No recording of that song ever has
but they don't
that
say
line in there.
Of the world or anything, any variation like that at all.
Nothing.
Did you look this up or no?
Yeah, I
did.
Dude,
okay.
I spent the afternoon researching this.
Man, because I remember gym in elementary school PE, we'd always play that like at the end of the end of class. Like I swear I remember hearing that.
I know. It's weird.
What the fuck is going on?
A lot of people swear that there was a movie in the 90s called Shazam with Sinbad playing a genie.
Yep. Yeah.
I am Shazam.
Yeah.
I specifically.
Hold on. You said at the end of the song?
Recall?
Yeah.
At the end of the very song. Okay, at the end of the song. Okay, I guess you're right. But they do have "We Are the Champions of the World," but it's not. It's like the chorus before the end of the song.
No, it's at the end of the song.
No, but they don't say "of the world" because "We Are the Champions." That's the end of the song.
Right.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Shazam.
Yeah.
With Sinbad.
F1 by.
F1. Yeah. Shazam.
Yeah. That movie does not exist.
I thought it was.
Sinbad
I thought it was Shaquille O'Neal.
It was Shaquille
Kazam.
and
Kazam. That's the confusion.
I
could see where that could just be easily a confusion and people just
why? Because there's two black people.
I mean, Sinbad's pretty light skinned.
You said it yourself. You've read my mind.
No, because
how are you thinking?
Well, because that's what you're going to go with. I've known you all my life.
What?
I know how you are.
So
that's true. You do.
Here's the last one.
I'm glad you did.
Last one. All right. Because this was kind of not recent, but like it came up in the news. Tiananmen Square, the picture and the video of the tank man.
Yeah.
What happened to him?
Got ran over. No.
Nah. He
well,
from what I remember, he's like he goes in front of it and he moves left and the tank moves. Tries to move around him.
There you go. Yeah, I do remember the guy.
And that's all I remember. That's from what I can recall.
Right. So
they did a dance number.
Yeah.
A lot of people swear that there was no more video of that because the Chinese government censored the tanks running him over.
Yeah.
So he actually did get run over?
He did not get run over, but a lot of people swear that that's what happened. But that's not what happened. You're correct. He moved around. The tanks tried to go around him, and he moved around them, and eventually he was moved off out of the way, and they kept going. But he did not get run over by those tanks. But a lot of people swear that they remember that he got ran over by those tanks.
Yeah, because I think they actually try to track the guy down, and there's people or people claiming that he was the one was kind of hard to prove.
Yeah, it is hard to prove.
Did they make fun of that in Family Guy?
Yeah, the first season.
Like first season,
screw this, man. I just came here for some.
I came here for the fireworks or something like that.
Yeah, some shit.
I came here by the fireworks.
God damn it.
Yeah, that was the first season too, man. The golden age.
So, those are the examples I have of the Mandela Effect. You can see like how it differs from person to person.
Yeah.
Now, why does it differ from person to person? Now, there's a couple of different theories on this. You can contribute it to mass hysteria, but really, can you contribute it to mass hysteria when it's so many different people from spread out in different socioeconomic, faculties across the entire world that remember specific, very, very specific things all one way when they were completely different? The easy answer is that our brains are our brains are fallible. You don't remember specific details as well as you think you do, and the human mind it can be persuaded. Specifically trying to recall and recollect information that you don't have readily in front of you.
Well, it's like whenever you read a sentence, right? And if the middle letters are all jumbled in, as long as the first and last letter is the same, you can kind of make out what it's trying to say. You just skim read it.
Because your brain puts that together. Yeah. As long as the first and last letters of the word and the number of letters
are correct
in the word are correct, then your brain will figure out what word that is. It also comes into effect of things like when you're like witnesses on trial, leading questions. People that are master manipulators can make witnesses change details of their testimony by leading them into different details and making them question what they thought they remember seeing.
Right. Like for instance, what's that one Netflix special where the kid gets questioned by the agent, and he's like, "Am I gonna go home? I want to watch WrestleMania."
Oh yeah, fucking Brendan.
From Steve Making of a Murderer.
Yeah, Making a Murderer.
And and really, he's just dumb as shit.
Yeah,
and they got him to confess something.
Yeah, they did, and it was he wrote out a confession, and he was like, I just want to go home. Can I go home and watch wrestling? Oh yeah, we got a live one here. So Tom Segura has a whole bit about that. It's hilarious. You got to listen to it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people chalk the Mandela Effect up to that. That the human mind is easily persuaded one way or the other, but a lot of people say no, like I remember like this very, very vividly. Like this is a lot of people have what they call hyper awareness, or I forget what the actual term for photographic memory is, but a lot of people have that, and they're like, no, I remember specific details about everything, and I remember this very specifically. And there's some people that remember details of events one way, and there's people that remember details of events a completely different way. And it all seems to trigger around one specific, thing of that event or time or something like that. And so there are a lot of people that chalk this up to the many worlds parallel universe theory.
Okay.
And so I was reading an article online when I was researching for the show that started talking about that, and it really got me into a deep dive on YouTube and reading some articles and stuff like that. I actually had to go I actually paid to read this fucking article.
Nice.
So, because I was really interested in this theory, and I really wanted to make sure that I got things correct. And we've been drinking. I probably am going to fuck this up.
Okay.
But
I can't wait.
I forgive you.
I don't.
But
before you get into that, like, can you also chalk up the Mandela Effect? Like, actually, see, as Paul and I you're throwing this trivia at us, we're very submissive. We're kind of like, okay, oh shit, you're right. That does, now that I do see the STAIN in Bernstein beers, right? And I still say Steen, right? But like, you got those people that just, no matter how hard they hit the wall, they're still right. And they're like, no, I swear that this is what it was. And you had those type of people that kind of construing the whole
Yeah, and that's
data, I guess
exactly.
You could
say. Because we're talking about a human perception thing, I don't think you'll ever have a 100% concrete answer on this. Yeah. But it leads us into the discussion of the possibility of parallel universes and what that means. Mm-hmm. So basically, what I started researching was quantum mechanics. So
quantum leap, baby,
and that's how quantum mechanics started. Was the way that they first started this theory of quantum mechanics and the way things work on different scales. So basically, what we talk about it and what they talk about in physics is our classical understanding of physics. If I throw you something, I'm going to throw you this pen.
Right.
You catch it. You don't instinctively catch it because it's just you have learned from a very young age that when somebody throws something to you, you should catch it. Your mind doesn't have to go through all these steps of calculating trajectory and where your hand's going to have to be and things like that. It's a known,
right?
And you know that from experience.
Because I don't want to pick it off the floor. Pick it up off the floor. I mean, no, but I mean that's the reason why I catch it.
Yeah, but you know that you kind of instinctively.
What do I do with this flying projectile?
Right. You're going to instinctively try to catch it. Most people are going to instinctively try to catch it.
Yeah.
We have ways that we can, quantify all those things on a scale that we're used to seeing. Right. If you kick a soccer ball, you can calculate trajectory and velocity, and it's a very simple equation to say this is how far this soccer ball is going to go and this is how it's going to act.
Right.
Because you have so many outside forces acting on this soccer ball, you can calculate exactly where it's going to go. Okay? So this is our classical understanding of physics on what we call the classical scale, and then there's the macro scale, which is celestial bodies and things like that in the universe at large. But the macro scale kind of comes back around to what's the quantum scale.
Yeah.
So the way things operate in a conventional way that we think about things, we think about, like a ball or a can or something like that. That would be like a particle. Okay. So a particle is one solid piece of mass, okay, of matter, whatever. It's a particle. The way that operates up to, when you shoot a bullet, a particle, at this, it's going to act like this. And every single one of them, no matter how big that bullet is, calculating for mass and, things like that, and gravity and all these things, it's going to act a certain way. You can quantify that this is how this is going to act.
Right.
So, the way that we started figuring out how quantum mechanics came about and that things at a very small scale operated outside our conventional knowledge and understanding of physics was some professors were doing an experiment, and they were doing tubes of superheated gas, call it neon gas or whatever. Mm-hmm. So they started they had these superheated tubes of gas, and they were looking at them through a prism.
Right.
And you would think that looking at a light source through a prism, you would see like a rainbow. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right.
But they didn't. They saw very distinct, broken up lines of individual colors.
Oh, wow.
Lined up. Not a broad spectrum. The spectrum of colors was there.
Right.
But only certain wavelengths of it, because a wavelength is determines the color in our visible spectrum.
Right.
The wavelength of the light.
Right.
So, but only certain colors were there, and they were basically like pencils lined up, is what it kind of looks like. So they postulated that when you superheat a gas like that, you cause the electrons to make a quantum leap from an outer ring to an inner ring of that atom, which gives off a specific wavelength of light in exiting energy. Okay. So that's where we started getting into, things operate differently at a smaller scale than they are at the bigger scale. And there was a lot of experiments, but kind of like the leading up to like kind of what the basis of quantum mechanics are, is what's known as like it's called the two-slit experiment. Okay, and so for all intents and purposes, it's basically a black backdrop. Okay, a collection grid, and then in front of it, a black sheet of paper with 2 gaps or slits in it. Okay, so if these were solid pieces stuck in, and you're sitting here and you were shooting BBs at them, right? If you shot a BB at that, you would, if you were just, had a BB gun and were just firing projectiles at this, right? And some are bouncing off of it and some are going through the slits. Behind on the collection grid behind it, you would expect, in our conventional knowledge of physics, to see equal behind each slit on the collection grid. Right? That's where you would see the indentations from the BBs directly behind those 2 slits. Right. Because that's how a projectile acts in our conventional thinking and knowledge of physics. Well, what they did was they took it down to a micro scale and they used a laser. And at this point, we don't know kind of is a laser, is light act, I guess the question at this point you're trying to solve is, does light act as a wave or a particle? Okay, so they're doing this experiment, and what they find is, as the light is shown on these 2 slits on the collection grid, you're seeing the collection grid light up at the same time through not only the 2 behind the 2 slits, but on the outsides also. In equidistant spacing, you have about 6 different lines.
Right.
Well, why is that? If light is a particle, it should act like a particle.
Right.
It should not be able to go through. And this is not just, we're talking about shooting photons, and we're talking about shooting like 1 photon per every hour and a half. It still acts the same, whether you're shooting them, fast or slow.
Right.
No matter how you shoot it still acts the same way. If you close off one of the slits, you would expect, if it acts like a particle, then only one side would collect, right?
Right.
But that's not the way this acts. It acts more like a wave, where, like, if you talk about waves in water, constant flow of waves, and you put a wall with 2 gaps in it, or you put a wall with 1 gap, let's say 1 gap in the middle. As the wave hits the wall and it hits, and that energy is transferred through that gap, it radiates outward into like a circle, like a half circle outward from that. If you make it 2 gaps, our conventional physical thinking of waves, you have waves that cancel each other out, and then you have waves that join with each other and increase in magnitude and go out. And when you do that, if you look at it in water, it looks like what we're seeing on the collection grid. So you have to start thinking about it as kind of how does that work? Now you have to stop thinking about it in a conventional physics way, and that's kind of where Niels Bohr and Schrodinger and Einstein and Rosenberg kind of all came in, and they were like, okay, now we have to kind of change the way we think about physics in general. And I know this is kind of a convoluted way to get around to this parallel universes thing, but trust me, you have to have the kind of an understanding of what's going on to understand how this is possible.
Right. Okay.
So, in this world, so now that we have this understanding that this is the way light acts, right, and this is any beam, whatever, particle, or whatever. So, if we're saying that light is a particle and this is the way it acts on a quantum scale, that means that as it's going through that means it's acting like a wave, right? So, this is where Schrodinger comes up with this equation that kind of explains this. But it doesn't really explain it, because at the end of the day, Schrodinger says that the particle can be, yes, it can be a wave and a particle, because we're talking about, instead of like a singular wave in amplitude as you think about it, what we're talking about are probability waves, Whereas if you're trying to measure where a specific particle is in space, it could be anywhere, right? But the probability, you have a probability wave. It's higher, it could be here, it could be here, it could be here, it could be here.
Right.
As you go to measure it, when you measure it, boom, automatically it's here. Now, was it there before you measured it?
Okay.
We don't know.
Right.
Because by measuring it, you've changed the environment. And when you stop measuring it, now you don't know where it is. Now you're back to probability waves. You know what I mean? The probability that it's here is higher than it is over here, but there's too many outside factors to factor in to drive the probability down far enough to make it so that you don't have a probability wave.
Right.
Okay? There's too many outside. You're talking infinite number of factors across the entire Earth trying to measure for one particle. It's almost impossible. You can't do it. So you talk about particles being in waves. Now, that all of a sudden brings up the possibility of you have to start thinking about this particle, this one singular particle being here and here, or it being here or
here. Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
So now we're getting into the particle here and here, or a particle here or here. Okay? So this is where, that's kind of the basics of quantum mechanics, is once you take that measurement of where it is, all of a sudden you've changed it, you've flattened out that you have probability waves, all of a sudden, boom, you've made a spike, and it's all of a sudden in one singular spot because you've measured it.
Right.
You've changed what's going on in the field of what's happening. So, that being said, this is where the famous Schrodinger's cat comes into. So Schrodinger, everything mathematically works out to this. Like, all of these things, the math leads you here. It's ridiculous, but this is where it leads you. So Schrodinger said, the Schrodinger's cat experiment is, or postulation is you have a box, and it has a radioactive atom in it. And radioactive atoms decay, right?
Right.
So in that box, you have a radiation detector attached to a vial of poison. If it detects radioactive decay, which is if that radioactive element decays, so it has a 50-50 half-life. So it'll decay or it won't in a certain amount of time, right?
Right.
So also in this box is a cat.
Okay.
Right? So if you open the lid to the box, the cat dies.
Okay.
So if you look into the box, the cat's dead. But you don't know what's going on inside the box.
Right.
You don't know if that atom has decayed or if it hasn't decayed. So you have to always think, like, if you follow the rules of quantum mechanics, that cat is both alive and dead at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what Schrodinger's equation for quantum mechanics kind of controls. It doesn't really control for it, but you have to kind of accept that as a truth. And if you really take it seriously, that means that not only can you say that this is where it gets kind of tricky into the parallel universes thing. If you were to open the lid to that box, all of a sudden, not only is that cat both alive and dead, you've also created basically, like the way that you explain it is, it's basically a split. So think of it like, if I told you, if I could physically see these two different particles and I said, Jake, this particle is here and it's here. Okay? Right. Now you've heard me say this part. Now, I can see these particles, right? And so I'm in a state of this particle is here. And this part, and another state of me is in this particle is there. Yeah. That's the problem with having that statement. It's basically you having to, because it's functional exponentially upwards.
Right. So
that would mean that I would have to exist in two different states.
Right.
And then if I told you about it, you would have to exist in two different states. The Rob told me this particle is here, and the Rob told me this particle is there.
Yeah.
Two different states.
Right.
Okay? So that's where that split comes from, that proximity wave that we can't control for as many variables. So anytime that happens, you basically, if the universe is infinite, with an infinite number of things happening, that means that any possibility, anything like that is happening, every possible outcome of every scenario is happening all the time.
Right.
Which means in an infinite parallel universe theory, if you take the Schrodinger's cat, all of a sudden when you open that lid, you have a split where you have, it's not you, but there's a parallel version of you where the cat is dead,
right,
and another version of you where the cat is alive.
Right, yeah.
All of a sudden you have a split, a parallel.
Parallel, yeah.
Right? With two different things happening, but there's just that one minor little change. So a lot of people will postulate that theory of quantum mechanics, based on that is the only way to quantify a lot of the physics and the math. So a lot of professors are like, well, what about the conservation of energy, conservation of mass? You're talking like you're splitting the universe. But like a lot of these things, they say can work out because you're not splitting the entire universe. You're only splitting it into a small slice, and only certain things are affected. So that is, you're still moving forward, and that would explain kind of like the matter, antimatter thing, dark matter.
Yeah.
Like where's all, like if everything has a balance, we know about all this matter. Well, where's all the rest of the matter? Well, if the universe has been split on a micro level so many times since the beginning, that's where all that extra matter is. You know, the universe is constantly expanding. You know, it's infinite. That's where all that would be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we can't see the end of the universe because light only travels so fast. We can only see what at the edge of it.
Right.
So that being said, those parallel universe theory is where people start building into this effect of where that's where the Mandela effect comes in. We're talking our brains, because a lot of people also think that the universe operates at frequencies and vibrations. So being that we're so close in frequencies and vibrations with all of our other parallel selves, sometimes things bleed over a little bit because the human brain is a very sensitive electronic organ. So that's another like really convoluted postulation behind this, the Mandela effect.
Shit. Okay. I probably shouldn't have drunk any beers.
It'd be fun. You got the gist of it. I'm trying to that.
I got the cliff notes.
Cat. There's something I'm looking up. I don't know. I just want to see if it has any relevance to this. Like, just keep going because it's really interesting. I'm listening when you were saying. No, what is that called again? Like
Schrodinger's cat.
But yes. There's something came to mind.
But so Schrodinger didn't come up with that experiment to try to explain it. He came up with that to show just how he came up with that just to kind of show how ridiculous the quantum mechanics formula is. Right. It's like, do you realize that, like, in a real world scenario, this is what this means? That this cat has to be both dead and alive at the same time. That's what this is explaining, because it's not quantifiable. You can't say that, like, this is in the real world. It doesn't work. In the real world, like we know it, it doesn't work. But all the math leads you here. It doesn't go anywhere else. Right. Everything can be quantified by that equation on a quantum level. And if everything on a quantum level can be quantified by that, then it has to ripple upwards. Yeah. We've already talked about that. It has to, because it would be against all of our conventional. We have a lot of evidence that says things move and act in a physical plane in a certain way. There's an overwhelming amount of evidence to be able to write all the physical laws of nature to make these things work on a certain way. You know what I mean? Right. We'd have to rewrite all of those things, and we have a lot of super compelling evidence that says that that's not right. That we can't rewrite physical laws.
Right.
So
of course not.
It's the
most. Can. I mean,
well, you can, but then it won't work on a macro scale. Right. The bigger you get, then things start falling apart. The bigger numbers you start using, then the equations stop making sense.
I know. Yeah.
So the beauty with this is that it basically says that because you're using proximity waves and you're using, or probability waves, not proximity probability waves, because there's too many outside factors to influence in, that if you could narrow all of those other outside factors out, then you would be able to get, instead of a probability wave, you would have just that one spike where in reality this is where this particle is. And not it could be here. The probability is higher here. This probability wave is moving, but it also has to have an opposite probability wave, right? So it has to be two separate probability waves. But if they're two separate, this is where it kind of gets convoluted, because you have to have two probability waves, but then they're the same wave because the universe should be operating at the same wavelength. Right. So it's the same wave in space, but your particle, like basically when you're talking about a quantum particle and you're trying to define where it is, you have to say, it's probably here, but it could be here. So you have to say, is it here and here? Or is it here or here? Yeah. And you kind of have to use both models to be able to explain physics as you get bigger with things. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that's where you have to, and basically in the laws of physics, they have to work at any scale for it to be a physical law. Right. Well, you know what I mean? Makes sense, yeah. So that's why a lot of these laws of physics are being questioned, when you start bringing in quantum mechanics and things like that, because they just don't work correctly. Mm-hmm. So you have to, there's some kind of variable that they're not factoring in, basically. And so if you have that, and you have like this infinite parallel universes, because any time you make a decision, if any probable outcome actually happens of any decision, then that's another micro split in the universe. So that's another slightly different parallel branch.
God damn, it's mind-boggling, man.
Yeah.
just to sit there and just think about the possibilities of any different decision, anything.
Anything.
That's why they say it's infinite.
It's an impossible number. It's not a number. It's not something you can wrap your head around.
Yeah, because you can't necessarily grasp around it. Right. In other words, it's fucking mind-boggling. Yeah, it's like, God damn, man.
Usually
what do you do to me right now? I'm fucking
the same thing. Jesus. Like usually I average about 8 beers an episode, and I'm like halfway into one beer where you're 30 minutes of talking, man. It's like, that's crazy.
So that's and researching for this episode, this was one of the things I wanted to make sure that I was able to explain correctly, because I had heard the parallel universe theory associated with the Mandela Effect before, and I wanted to be able to explain correctly to be able to have a discussion about it, and to say like, because it brings up so many other things. You know what I mean? If that's true, then that means every decision you've ever made, you've made every decision anyway, every single time.
Yeah.
Like if I'm sitting here trying to decide whether or not I'm going to have a sip of this beer, I've already had a sip and I already haven't had a sip. It's already because if the universe is infinite and time is infinite, that means that every outcome, every decision of everything is happening all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny you say that, because I think
it's pretty meditative. You're always going to want to sip.
I think about that all the time. Like, I'm just talking about like different parallel universes. Like, if I didn't make this decision, or who I am today, and like of course anything, of course. In other words, like, I'm probably like, I don't know. I'm probably like this, or like this. Like, it's fucking crazy. I think about that a lot.
If one didn't show up for this podcast, would there be a future podcast? We'll be like, fuck this. We're done.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Or if our guest showed up for this podcast.
See, this would have been if we would have had, who would have been nice to have on tonight? It would have been nice to have Chris on tonight. We should invite him to a show.
We should invite him to a show.
Because
he
to an episode.
To an episode. Because I think this would have been a good episode for him to chime in on.
I'll reach out to him, see if he'll show up. I mean, he'll come. Too easy. Too fucking easy.
He's got nothing to do. What the fuck?
Apparently.
Like the most of us. Oh, some of us.
Anyway.
So,
I mean, it brings up a lot of questions about a lot of things. So, it also brings up if you have an infinite universe and you're tapping into parallel universes of that infinite universe.
Jesus.
So one of the things that
ultra fucking interstellar
talking about Einstein and Rosenberg, theoretical physicists, talking about theoretical astrophysicists, talking about black holes and stuff. They're the ones that came up with the idea of an Einstein-Rosen bridge. So an Einstein-Rosen bridge is basically two black holes that connect physically, connecting two different points of space-time. Because if you have something that's so heavy to create a black hole, it has to go somewhere. So it would make sense that if you had multiple black holes all over the universe and they're compressing down space-time so much, and you can think of like gravity in kind of a two-dimensional sense. Think about having a sheet stretched out in the air, 4 people holding each corner, and it's tight, right? And you put a basketball in the middle of it. It's going to roll towards the middle and deform the sheet where the basketball is, right? If you put a bowling ball, it's going to do it even more because it's more dense and heavier. And then exponentially, talking about macro physics, everything on the same scale, if you kept packing mass into that same spot, it would keep pulling the center of that down. Space-time can't rip. Theoretically, I mean, we don't know if it can or not. That's a whole nother thing I haven't gotten into. But theoretically, that's what a black hole is when you have something that mass is so much that it condensed into one spot that it's pulled down and down, down, down. So it would make sense that you could possibly have black holes that connect, and that would be a wormhole, a way to travel between one point in space-time to another point in space-time. But if you're talking about parallel universes and what we were just talking about with quantum mechanics, if that was to happen, technically you would be traveling to a parallel universe, not your own universe.
Right. Isn't it like what they mentioned, like
that sucks.
Getting a point A, point B on a sheet of paper, and then you fold in that piece of paper,
event horizon,
and you're like, it's like the wormhole.
Yeah,
and
I mean that's Einstein's theory, isn't it?
That's the Einstein. That's an Einstein.
You
Rosen
fold the
bridge.
plane pretty much, and you're able to shoot across time or space, like travel.
Instantly. You're bending space time. You're creating a singularity that is That was the basic premise behind the movie Event Horizon. Do you remember that?
No, I've never seen it.
So
I can't. I seen it.
I
once
saw it a long time
theaters.
ago.
Yeah, it was just fucking.
It's really fucked up.
It is. That's what was hard for me to grasp. I couldn't watch it.
Watch it now as an adult. After we just talked about
I don't know
stuff.
if I want to do that, especially recently. No, I think I'm right on that.
It's basically Rogers. The event horizon is the point of around a black hole where you no longer see light. You know what I mean? That's basically the edge of the black hole. Now, if you were to throw something into a black hole, you would never see it go into the black hole if you were looking at it from a distance, because time slows down exponentially the closer you get to it. So, like if you threw a clock into a black hole, just theoretically, like you were able to throw a clock into a black hole and watch it from a distance. Like you would see time start to get slower and slower on the clock face until the point where it stopped. But and then you would never see the clock actually go into the black hole, no matter how long you looked at it, because time, even though it was physically getting closer, because you're so far away from it, and gravity has warped space-time so much at the point where that black hole is, you would never actually physically see that clock go into the black hole.
Damn. That's fucking crazy. That's ultra interstellar.
Yeah.
That's fucking nuts, man.
Yeah. It's crazy trippy shit to think about.
That's Hollywood.
That's Hollywood.
No, it's not.
I know.
And you know what's funny about Interstellar is one of the cool things about that movie, whether you like the plot on it or not, which I thought the plot on it was excellent.
Yeah, great movie.
They spent big bucks Hollywood on that to render. That rendering of a black hole in that movie is the most accurate rendering of a black hole.
Yeah.
They were able to spend the money because they wanted an accurate representation, and all these scientists were like, we don't have these millions of dollars to do. Nobody will grant us the money to do that. Like, we just study them, you know what I mean? Like, and they were like, well, we're making a movie with Matthew McConaughey. Like, here's a couple $1 million. Do it.
Yeah.
And so they did it. And so that's for that movie, they did that. And they had a lot of science consultants on there.
Yeah, there's a book. There's one book that Nolan was using like as a reference for all the I guess when it came to the science behind it. It was heavily backed up by that book.
Yeah, it's
and
really
probably
accurate.
just amongst other things that you're saying, but yeah,
wow, that's fucking crazy.
That's the most accurate representation you get to a black
and
hole.
you'll see it. That representation of a black hole is used in any from then on. It's used all the time because it's the most accurate representation of what a black hole would look like. And the reason that it looks like it's folded, where you're seeing, like, you know what I'm talking about, where it looks like you see the back side of it,
right?
Is because the gravity is so intense that it is bending light, and you're actually seeing the light as it swirls around the backside of the black hole, bent and reflected back to you before it ever gets there.
Damn, that's why it has
that
around
corona
it.
effect.
Around it, yeah. Okay, no shit.
It's called the corona.
That's crazy. Yeah, nice.
So
fuck me.
I didn't.
That is.
Y'all didn't know we were getting this heavy.
Yeah, I was
shit
say,
tonight.
are you taking a grade for this fucking shit?
Taking a grade.
There'll be a test later.
This shit. Yeah.
I'm sure that my mom will listen to this and be like, "You're wrong."
Oh, I can't wait for that.
On black holes,
let's have her.
She'll argue with me on anything science, dude. Anything. No matter how much I research it. She took
Chris, we're gonna get your mom.
She took a couple college classes, and she's an expert on everything.
You hear that?
She wants to argue with me about 9/11, which
we still got to bring that up.
I know we do, and I need to do some more research on it, independent of the documentaries and stuff that we've watched, so that I can make an opinion. Because like we had the episode about it, but all we talked about was this is possible or this is possible. It's kind of that goes back to that same thing that I was talking about, you know?
Yeah, anything's possible.
There's a
shooting.
Oh, there's another Wicked Awesome in there?
I haven't had one in a while.
Motherfucker.
Hey, I'll trade you
the last one.
I'll trade you for this mini boss.
I had a mini boss. Don't do this.
No.
Don't you? Don't take this away from. Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Explain this to me, and I forgot.
Mom, I swear he said he was gonna rape me. He said, "Let's get it on." He said, "I never thought I'd hear my son yell rape in front of the neighbors."
Can you explain to me in Interstellar? I completely forgot. I only saw this movie like once. Like,
really?
Is it when they're going into the black hole? Is when they're like making first contact, like, and it's like I guess it's like being touched by extraterrestrial or something like that. Is that correct or no?
No,
no. When he goes in, he's actually seeing, like, he's the part where he's in his daughter's room.
Okay, so
that part, is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about when I thought. Oh, fuck! I thought that when they were going to the wormhole. Is that when
it's not aliens.
No.
It's humans in the future.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay,
exactly.
That's what it is. Oh, okay.
Because basically,
which is also a theory of what they say. Like, well, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
They say that what is it? That I don't know. Like, aliens could be us just from the future.
Yeah, I heard that before.
Possession of time traveling. Yeah. In other words. Anyway.
And that's one of those. So in Interstellar, basically the concept is as he goes into the wormhole, you're traveling to a point in time, with quantum entanglement and things like that, where you're experiencing time and space on a completely different level,
right,
where it has no bearing. You can travel to any point in time and space you can travel to a point in time like you would a point in space. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And distance is a non-concept at that point. You know what I mean? That's why he's able to be, affect things in the past, and then as he comes out, with the then that's where they find out the humans were, what they thought were aliens were they're the ones that made the hole for them to travel through, right. And everything like that. So and there's a one point in the movie where, and it's really accurate when they go towards that black hole. They're like, this planet's on the side of this black hole, and every hour on that planet is 7 years on Earth. Yeah. Because time slows down. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, and
the big ass tidal waves in that. Scene. Yeah.
Those aren't mountains.
Those aren't mountains.
Yeah, that was fucking crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
God damn.
It goes back.
How long's it been? Like 20 years
too fucking long, you sons of bitch.
Can you imagine that guy sitting on that fucking spaceship?
God, man. And it was only 20 hours to McConaughey or whatever. Like, God damn. When I still remember when I first saw that, it's like, oh my God. And it was just fucking, I don't know. It was just unbelievable. Like, it was just how you feel, how it made me feel that moment, just him saying that, and the contrast between both of the characters of perception, it's mind boggling. Yeah. That's crazy.
I mean, and that's the whole like the space and gravity and time and thing like that. That's a relativity thing. You know what I mean? There's some great TED Talks and things like that you can see on YouTube. But the simplest explanation that I can give you. There's a couple of them, but like one of the two simplest explanations, if anybody you want to talk about relativity and what that means, is there's a great TED Talk, and I forget who does it, but it's basically the guy shows, okay, like we're going to show this camera shot from here, and this guy is sitting in a chair, like an office chair, and he's being pulled back and forth, right? And he has a ball and he's throwing it to himself.
Right.
Okay. He goes, we're going to show you this shot from a camera mounted on the chair. Okay. So you just see, and you see the background, the audience is moving in the background, obviously, because the ball's being thrown up and down, and everything's kind of black except for this bright white or yellow ball that the guy's throwing up. And they're using a computer to make a trace of the ball. So as he's throwing it up and down and being moved side to side, you see that the trace from his perspective is just an up and down line, and then an up and down line, and then an up and down line. When you move the camera to the audience's perspective and see it, it's a wave. You watch the ball go up and down and in a wave pattern. Exactly. And that's a really good explanation of relativity. Sure. It's the perception. The way an object moves through space is relative to where you are to that object.
Exactly.
And time also. Another would be
in the settings of the camera.
In the settings, but that's
I'm bullshit.
Relative. Yeah. So another would be like if you had two people, like if you had twins that were exactly identical, and you gave them watches and you synced their watches, okay, and you had a spaceship that was able to travel at the speed of light.
Yeah.
Okay. And you sent this twin and put one of them in the spaceship, and you put the other twin on Earth. Mm-hmm. And you sent that spaceship 1 light year away and back. So 2 years have passed.
Yeah.
Okay. And as far as that's so a light year is the distance that light will travel, or the speed light will travel in a year.
Right.
Okay. So that it's a measurement of distance.
Right.
So you send this 1 light year and then back. So because time breaks down the faster you're moving, to the twin in the rocket ship, it would have been a few seconds that he'd been gone. But to the twin on Earth, it would have been 2 years, and he would have aged 2 years. But the twin in the spaceship would not have aged. Yeah. It works better if you talk about like a 10-year mission, you're going 10 light years and 10 light years.
Right.
And to the twin in the spaceship, mere seconds would have passed and he wouldn't have aged. Mm-hmm. But to the twin on Earth, 20 years would have passed.
Right.
Kind of the same concept that you get with
That's
gravity.
Why whenever you're able to develop technology that can go to the speed of light, you can time travel.
Is that what it is?
Is that what you're saying?
I don't think that you'd be able to travel.
You know what?
Time travel, but I think that
go into the future.
Well, in a sense, I mean, you couldn't. You could move. You could. It'd be the same effect if you cryo freezing yourself.
No, but
it's the exact same effect. Think about it. You want to time travel to the future.
You're stopping.
You're basically stopping time for yourself, not for the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Why not just cryo freeze yourself? You're still doing the same thing, but you're not having to travel the speed of light. To you, time would not have passed. You would have woken up and not have aged, but a couple of seconds. But the world would have aged around you.
Right.
That's not really time travel. I don't know that you can. I don't think that you can actually physically travel through time. But I think that you could use light and gravity to bend time and space time. Especially like if you think about a black hole, because gravity and light are so intense that you can see the light on the backside of the black hole before it even gets there, right? Mm-hmm. So you're seeing events before they happen, right? Uh-huh. So you could theoretically, if you could figure out how to do that on a smaller scale and controllably, you could possibly, if you had a lens big enough or strong enough and a light source more powerful enough, you could bend light and gravity to see into the future. Mm-hmm. But you wouldn't be able to travel, quote unquote, travel there. Theoretically, you could do that.
That's what's scary about that Lazar interview with Rogan.
Uh-huh.
He was claiming that these people have the capabilities, supposedly, of what the technology they had was to time travel.
Yeah.
And he was saying that if you have that, I think something else too. Like you can inflict your will upon anybody, basically. Like the fact that I know I'm changing the subject, but it just mind-boggling. Like when he mentioned that, like it was like because it's just so raw, and like just hearing him say it and letting him speak and explain what he's saying, what the government, whoever has this technology, basically they can this technology can also have like force fields and you can't penetrate it. And you have that, you basically, as I said, you can force your will upon anybody and you can do whatever you want. And the fact that you can time travel too, like that's what he was saying basically. Well, it's fucking nuts.
As our understanding of the universe and physics grows, one of the things that is becoming more fundamentally clear is the fact of what we don't know about gravity and how it works as a force, what causes it, what is actually creating it, how is it controlled, what is, what, and all those things. And so Bob makes a lot of really good points in there.
Yeah.
Not all of them are, I don't know that all of them are valid. I think some of them are a lot of speculation on his point, but I mean, he's a smart guy and he's a physicist, and I mean, I think that he knows enough to know what he's talking about to a certain extent, and to where he's like, it's one of the things I like about Bob Lazar is he'll tell you, I don't know. That's not my field of study. I don't know how they're doing it. I'm just telling you that this is what I saw.
Yeah. Yeah. Just straight to the point. I like that. It was awesome.
So, I mean, it's there's a movie with, speaking of like the lens and the light powerful enough to where you could bend around, and see around the universe. There's a movie called, what's it called? I think it's called Paycheck with Ben Affleck.
Oh, I remember that movie.
That's basically that concept.
What's it about? I forgot it.
So he reverse engineers things, he's an engineer. So in that movie, they bring him in. He does these jobs where they're like, okay, we don't know anything about this, but we want you to reverse engineer this product. And they mind wipe him after he's done with it, so he doesn't remember that he does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then they get him involved in like this one last project, and he doesn't know what it is. And he comes out the other side after 3 years, and it's usually only a couple of weeks. But he comes out the other side of it, and he's like, waiting on my $90 million payday, you know, blah, blah, blah. Goes, and they're like, oh, you didn't take any stock or anything. Like, you just had this envelope of these random items. And he's like, what the fuck? And he's trying to figure out why. Yeah, but all these random items help him through specific circumstances and situations. And he figures out that by building this machine that was able to look into the future, he basically, like, kind of like Minority Report. You know what I mean? You're seeing crimes before they happen. You're seeing things before they actually happen, and you're acting on them. And so you're basically, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. The machine predicts war, so there is a war. Well, the machine predicted war because, you know what I mean? So, like, if the machine wasn't there, you wouldn't have the war. So he sabotages the machine, and he's finding out that he sabotaged the machine before the thing was over with. But then, like, at the very end of it, you know, he wins, and then he finds out, he had the lottery. He bought a $90 million winning lottery ticket and hid it for himself at the very end, so that he does get his $90 million. Well,
just like in like T3, you think you kill the machine, but it's inevitable. The end of the world. In T3?
Oh, yeah. He said Judgment Day is inevitable.
Yeah.
Like,
you just postponed it.
Yeah. No
then
matter what.
Then John Connor became an alcoholic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's what she say to him in the thing? That's the drug that we use to chemically castrate dogs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Go ahead, take a look.
That was just a...
Got there and boosted.
That was what's it called? That was a production value. Like, that was real production value. That wasn't his actual scene. He was really robbing a place trying to.
Oh, of course,
trying to get some fucking drugs in him.
That was his audition.
We'll use this.
That was his audition.
That was his audition. What
just
movie?
Act like yourself.
Yeah.
Act like you're. Yeah, well,
so
all these drugs.
Who was super disappointed in Terminator Dark Fate when they were like, oh, dude, Eddie Furlong's going to be in this fucking movie.
That's
and
fucked
then it
up.
was Eddie Furlong as a kid.
In the beginning.
Yeah, and it was like
CGI.
reused footage, CGI bullshit.
No, I think they actually had to use some of his feet. Like, he had to go in, and I think he got like a check for it.
I haven't seen him recently, but I know he doesn't look like that.
Yeah, he was pissed off. He did an interview at a comic convention talking about his role, and like he thought it was bullshit. You know, because James Cameron made a big deal about we're also bringing back Eddie Furlong, and everybody got horny off that. I got horny off that.
Yeah. And then that fucking Terminator comes in there and blasts him, and you're like,
is fucked up. Which is fucked up. It's like, you would think that they would utilize his character because it's aged appropriately.
Yeah,
like he's aged. He's like in his 40s.
That's what I thought too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I don't get it. No,
yeah,
we gotta make this about Karen.
It makes fucking wokeness.
Oh my god,
Karen, what'd you say? The manager?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because of her haircut?
Yeah, because she's woke.
Because it was one of those movies.
Yeah, I'm surprised we don't own it.
I have it.
It's on
Rob and I Voodoo.
Yeah. Not mine. Yeah. I thought Caleb.
You just got to tell me how to buy movies for that thing, and I'll start contributing.
Oh, you just Venmo me the money because it goes straight out of my account. Yeah,
does it really?
Yeah, it goes straight out of my account. Yeah.
All right, cool. So if I see a movie on there, I'm just gonna be like, "Hey, I'm gonna buy this."
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm down with that.
Fucking, I get those little tear off fucking overdraft fucking letters in the mail and shit. Like, you got to peel it off, and it's like,
what?
You know, they got those little cards, the overdraft cards.
Get those.
Yeah.
From where?
From the bank.
From the bank.
I don't.
Yeah. What? Well, yeah, you got to have an overdraft.
You have to keep your money in banks for people to.
I have a credit union, but they don't do like.
Yeah, it's like
so an overdraft
does that. What?
Every bank.
No. I know that I've had overdraft fees. When I had Will's, I almost had $1,000 over overdraft fees one time.
Hell yeah!
20s. It was a huge mistake.
That's fucking awesome. Congratulations. They got
fucking assholes, man. It took a lot of beating to get that shit fucking reversed. But anyway, what are you talking about though? Like you said, a letter? You
get it in the mail.
I know that. I've received those.
It's like if you get your paycheck. You know, where you have to, like, it's got perforated edges and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what bank he's got. I don't get those.
I don't. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just a letter.
I've gotten them before.
There's no stickers.
It's like a postcard kind of.
Jolly Ranchers.
It's like a postcard that you're broke.
Yeah, it's like
here's a reminder you're broke,
and we're gonna give you like what 40 something, but I don't even know how much.
It's like you're broke,
and insanely.
We just made you even more broke.
And they're gonna say Rob Scholasky smiley face voodoo purchase.
Yeah, a made up number. We're just gonna say that you owe us
$37.50.
Fucking, how did they come up with that number?
50?
Fuck that. Anyway, we're going on.
Yeah. Fucking Mandela. Mandela will be proud.
But I don't know. Theories like why
so what do you what do you think? Do you think it's just an effect of the human mind not being able to remember correctly, or could it possibly be some form of parallel universes?
Well, the first thing you said is definitely true. Though we are
all very susceptible to influence, and
I mean our memories are not the best.
They're not.
It's not. It's terrible. What's it called? The quote. What Tommy DeVito from the Four Seasons in that movie that Clint Eastwood film. I love that. I think I'm gonna watch it later tonight.
Twins?
No.
Oh no.
The one based on
Twins.
No, the Four Seasons. Fucking what's his name?
Snapping your fingers is not going to help us.
Yes,
remember.
but sometimes it does.
It does, yeah.
Frankie Valli.
Jersey Boys.
Jersey Boys, yeah. Tommy
Jersey
DeVito
Boys.
says at the end, like when they're doing the Hall of Fame, the guy that's from Warlock Empire, the fucking gambler. Yeah. Anyway, he's like, everybody wants to remember how they want to remember things back then. Yeah. So when it comes to memory, he does make a point when he's saying that, like, when you always want to remember how you want to remember it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because everybody's perspective, like the three of us can have something we can remember years ago, but our perspectives are different, like how we perceive it and how we want to remember it.
Yeah,
basically. So I think. That comes to a part, but the fact that it affects such a mass amount of people that feel the same way, that's where it gets weird. Well, everybody feels like, oh no, I remember being like this. It was like this, about this shit. It's all supported like by just random people. I don't know. Just that's where it gets hairy. And that's what's fucking weird. The fact that if this shit is true, and that it's just like Back to the Future, like things change, like and then it'll alter automatically. We just don't know it. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, we carry a memory of it being different, and it's changed.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just
I think it's more along the lines of like if something were to happen, like when that split happens, it's think back to geometry, what a parallel means. It just means two lines that don't ever touch, no matter how close they are together. So, do you ever play like video games with like ghost racers, where like you're trying to beat your own time on a racing game or something like that, where it's a ghost car and you're driving? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Imagine that, but like it's basically the same concept where you can't. Neither car can affect the other one, but you can still like. If the whole universe is operating on waveforms and vibrations, which some people speculate, and I didn't really get into that, but if the vibration is close enough at certain points in time, it would make sense that and our bodies are very sensitive to vibrations, it would make sense that if that vibration for that was triggering something, that it could, and it's that close, and you see how close some of these Mandela Effect items are, dead or not dead, monocle or no monocle, A or E. Right. You know what I mean? Things like that, where it's super close, you can see where like maybe like that's what's going on. You know what I mean? Like the possibility exists that that's what we're seeing, and conventional scientists, psychologists, and things like that are dismissing it as simply like your brain is just a not very good at remembering things.
So I mean, I don't know. It's hard to dive into that, and what I'll just go by is just like the Bernstein Bears. We grew up saying Bernstein, right? And right out the bat, your head Stein. You know, we have as humans, we have a sheep mentality. Like, think about it. Like you made a comment before we even started recording this podcast, Rob, that this Pentagon declassified these videos, and yet no one's making a big uproar. They're admitting that it wasn't them, that it's something that they cannot even explain. It could be anything, but it's nothing. We always wanted this, you know.
And it's barely news.
Yeah, it's barely news. We wanted the military to admit it. We wanted them to, and they finally did. And it's barely news because of this COVID, right? And if you go to Yahoo, you go to any news front, they're going to talk about the COVID, right? So it's like we have this sheep mentality. You know, people were going crazy off toilet paper. Now people are speculating that they might go crazy off meat because these Tyson factories are going to shut down, whatever, right?
I don't buy that Tyson meat.
Yeah, I know. But
anyway.
Regardless of what it is, you know, you're going to have some dumbass that's going to go and buy a whole bunch of meat and throw it in their deep freeze.
Well, and see, that's the problem.
No.
And that's because you're right. We do have this. We do have a herd mentality, and we have this like you're going to react one way, so I'm going to react one way, and you don't know why you're doing it,
right?
Why he's doing it, but you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing as like you see videos of like people running down the street and looking over their shoulder like they're being chased, and they're passing people that are walking the other way, and then the other people look like they're being
they're looking like, what the hell is going on?
And they just start running.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We do. We have this herd
like
mentality.
Black Friday. Like, everybody just wants to get shit for free, and then
exactly
at the end of the night, it's a whole bunch of shit that no one bought.
Right. And so, I mean, that you're right. That is a big part of the human psyche, and that's one of those things that like you can use to explain this away. And it's a very easy to explain it away that way. And that may be correct. I don't know. I don't think that we could.
But it could be everything what you explain as well.
Right. It could be. You're 100% correct. But it could not be also.
Yeah. Or. Yeah.
And
yeah, and or yeah,
it could be both.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? And that's
why do you think the Monopoly guy wore a monocle? Because it was created in the early 1900s. Yeah. Ace Ventura was like, oh, he has a monocle.
You know what? Also, too, because of that movie, we could be associated with that. Like that could be
which
stuck
movie you talking about?
Ace Ventura.
Exactly.
The association because like maybe around that time, it never had a monocle, obviously, but maybe for also too maybe because of copyright. I don't know, or just they added something.
I think that
was somewhat different, altering from the actual character of Monopoly Man, and people just stuck with it. I don't know. That could be a possibility just for that one alone.
Honestly, for that one alone, I think that the reason that people think that he had a monocle is because of, like Jacob said, back in the 1920s, and rich people, and the way that the stereotype was,
ghastly man. Yeah.
The way that the stereotype towards people, that's kind of still that. George Jacob Astor kind of thing, Great Gatsby,
so it's a given. So people
you kind of automatically see that, and in your mind you automatically associated a monocle with that. But why do you associate the monocle with that? There's another pop culture icon character that does have a monocle,
the Peanut,
that dresses in a top hat, Mr. Peanut.
Yeah.
So you associate those two from the same era, so you would automatically think that Rich Uncle Pennybags has a monocle also.
Yeah.
Good observation. Yeah, you're right.
No, I didn't think about lumping him in. That makes sense too. Combination with
now,
that.
how would you see somebody with a monocle in today's society?
Punch him in the goddamn face.
I think they're broke and their glasses are broken.
Trying to think.
It's like Travis Dozier got in too many fights and like he's only used half his glasses.
Walton.
Yeah, exactly.
Not Dozier.
Walton, not Dozier.
Yeah, just
oh man. But have you guys seen supposedly videos of Mandela Effect happening? I don't know if it's bullshit or not, but it's fucking crazy. Like, I'll give you one example. There's I don't know where it's at, but it's in the afternoon, traffic in some city, and it says watch closely to this. I believe it was a white van, and it literally disappears in front of your fucking eyes. It doesn't look CGI. It doesn't look. I don't know. It's weird. It's a short video. It's like maybe a minute long. If even
I've seen a couple of videos of things similar to that where it's like like a traffic crossing, and then all of a sudden this car comes, like it's nowhere, and then all of a sudden it's there.
Yeah.
And it, like people explain it, and like in videography terms, it's like it's blocked, whatever, and like because you're looking at it on a 2-dimensional screen, you can't see the depth of it and things like that. And it was there, but there's a baseball video where like this umpire seemingly comes out of nowhere, like all of a sudden he's just in the fucking middle of the frame, you know what I mean? And I don't think that that's necessarily the Mandela effect. I think that's more like it's just.
It was under a video that was like showing like Mandela effects, like being caught on video. Supposedly, I think something I ran into last year.
I think that's a little bullshit.
It's like the.
It's interesting as fuck, though.
But seriously, it was candid. It was amateurish.
Yeah.
It was like somebody just driving in traffic in their car, falling just. I don't know. It just fucking disappeared. It was weird. It didn't look. I don't know. It could be trick but it would have fooled me because it looked legitimate.
I don't think it's trick photography. It's just they didn't do it on purpose. It's just like you're looking at it from this perspective,
possibly.
And, and that's what
but
you see.
The way
like forced perspective kind of thing.
I'm trying to find it so I can show you guys. Like, I mean, it is like it seems almost from what I remember. It seems like how do you disprove that? Or I don't know. It's like, for what it is, but it really does look like it's fucking disappearing in front of your eyes.
It's just like
we'll look at it after the show.
Yeah, let me try to find it.
World Trade Center 7, how they did a broadcast, BBC did a broadcast saying that World Trade Center 7 is down, but it's visibly shown in the background.
Well, that's just because they were stupid.
Yeah. That's not a Mandela effect.
Yeah, that's not a Mandela effect.
But no, I'm talking. No, I was saying that it's a camera effect, right? Because I think weren't they like in front of like a green screen or something like that?
Was it?
Well, it's a lot. You're seeing a lot of. I mean, you want to talk about bad camera stuff? I mean, you see it a lot right now in this COVID stuff, especially on the news. Is they're putting stuff out there like, you see people. I see it on Reddit all the time. People are commenting like, "Oh, that's me in this news footage that CNN's using for these people that are." And we're like, "Yeah, that was Black Friday last year in like Houston." You know what I mean? Not New York. Waiting. You know what I mean? And it's like all these news you have to take all that stuff with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? Listen to the story, take the facts away from the story, but leave all the fucking sensationalism aside from it. That's why I tried to, like, when we were talking about all these things, I tried not to sensationalize any of it. I just wanted to like put out the facts and say, hey, like, what do you remember this, and some of it was like it was leading questions. And I really wanted to give you pictures and say which one of these is correct.
Well, that'd be good, actually. You just got lazy on us, didn't you?
But no, it's because it's not visual for our audience either. So one of the things
they can Google it. What the fuck?
Well, I mean, do you want to talk about it now?
No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
So one of the things that we're going to start doing, just so anybody listening, we're going to start live streaming the podcast.
Oh yeah, we are.
So Jake, Paul, and I are working on this deal. We're trying to get everything set up and get it so that Friday nights when you're sitting around doing nothing, because everybody sits around at home doing nothing on Friday nights, you can just tune in on Facebook or YouTube and catch the podcast live streamed and look at our ugly mugs. And you don't have to wait till Wednesday when the podcast drops, so you can see what we're doing on Friday night.
Sexually too.
Sexually, yeah.
That means I gotta
after hours, baby.
That means I gotta like get dressed. I can't wear like gym shorts and shit like that. You know, I can't look like a fucking schmuck in the middle of the podcast.
Naked and shit like you normally are.
Yeah.
Is there a hyphen in Kit Kat or no?
There is no hyphen in Kit Kat.
Because you fucking researched it.
I did.
There is not?
There is not.
What about Kit Kat?
What about Kit Kat?
What
I was on a Zoom meeting this morning, like, and everybody was, the manager came on and was like, "Happy Friday, everybody." And everybody was like, "Hey, how's it going? Hey, how's it going?" I was like, "What's up?" And everybody started laughing. I was like, "Y'all remember that beloved commercial from the 90s? You know, like Louis Pena from Ant-Man? What's up?"
Is he the one that did?
No.
In that movie.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, he does that.
That's Ultra. What's it called, too? That's my boy, Adam Sandler.
Is it? I haven't seen that movie.
It's fucking awful, but it's so funny, though. It's great.
Budweiser brought that commercial back.
What? Oh, the What's Up?
Damn. They're like, stay at home with your boys.
Late 90s? What was that?
I don't remember.
Mid-90s?
I remember.
I know. What's it called? Is making fun of that.
The cartoon show, The Flintstones. Can you spell Flintstones?
Oh yeah, that's another one.
Yeah.
That it's spelled.
There's only one T.
There's no T.
There's only one T. FLINSTONES. It's not Flint Stones.
It's Flynn.
It's Flynn Stones.
Flynn Stones.
It's Flint.
It is not.
Ooh, Flintstones has 2 T's.
Ooh, you sure about that?
The shirts are going to come off. And
Let me look up John Goodman's role in the hit '90s movie called.
Sorry, I was late. Hit a nail.
It is Flintstones. Woohoo! Rob is wrong. Discredit him. Discredit him. This whole fucking.
We had a Mandela effect just now because I just researched this shit earlier today.
Does C-3PO have a silver leg? Or
he does have a silver leg. His right leg. That's a Star Wars fan.
Okay, since you researched this, Rob,
well, how about this?
Shut up. I want Paul to get this.
Okay, yeah.
Let's see. I'll get you.
No. In Corvette Summer.
Hello. Cheez-Its. Spell Cheez-Its. You know the little cheese fuck stick, huh?
So fuck stick, huh?
So Cheez-Its. You know the little cheddar crackers. Spell it, please.
CHEZITS.
Fuck stick, huh?
Or Z.
Z. Yeah. There's no Z.
There's no Z.
There is no Z.
Cheez-Its. No, it's Cheez-It, not Cheez-It.
Yeah, Cheez-It. Yeah.
Oh, it's not plural.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
It's not Asian. I mean, it's Asian.
And what's the hit the catchphrase, not the catchphrase, but the piece of dialogue that Forrest Gump says while sitting on the bench saying life?
Oh, well, that's I mean, people misquote that. Like, I think life is like, okay, I could
just
be wrong.
say it.
Life is like a box of chocolates.
Okay.
You never know what you're gonna get.
So life was like
Was like a box of chocolates.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of I didn't add movie quotes in there because I feel like that's just.
Well, I'm getting them.
Let
me have my fun. Here,
do the Star Wars one about the
Luke,
Darth Vader one.
Fighter, yeah, your father and all that.
Father.
Your father.
Faja.
I go remember, yeah. Oh, father.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. I'm your father. Damn.
That just reminds me of Jacob. Fucking. I remember I was working with you briefly years ago. I remember looking up. I was on Google. I was trying, and I saw. I just search result. Like I just typed in something. It said Price is Right losing team. You were trying to look it up.
Was that at Holiday World?
Yeah,
no. I'm in
the
computer.
Yeah, nice.
I'm sorry. God damn it.
Yeah, no, you got to edit that out.
Yeah, I'm
Rob,
sorry.
please.
Fuck. I'm drunk.
Get your time frame.
Yes.
I'll figure it out.
Damn it, man. I'm sorry.
Whatchamacallit? Dang, there's another one.
What else?
There was the other one that was it the
the Mr. Rogers first line of his song.
I watched this recently. The movie.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful day
in the neighborhood. It's
a beautiful day in this neighborhood.
It's this neighborhood.
This neighborhood.
It's not in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
it's in this neighborhood.
And that goes to show, like, everybody just listens to what everybody else says.
Yeah.
And, I mean, right? No?
There's
fuck all the science behind everything.
I mean, yeah,
what do you mean? Like, you're just saying, like, people want to believe what they want to believe?
No, it's they hear, everybody messes it up and they hear it and they're like, okay, that's what it is.
Yeah. They hear what they want to hear almost, like, in a sense. Kind of.
Basically. And it's one of those things, like we were saying, you can talk about the science theory that I postulated, or you can just say it's because human beings are dumb and, like, it's whichever one you want to believe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way you could prove it one way or the other right now.
Like Eureka Heights. How would you say it? No, that's not a good one. I was going to try to say it singular, but it doesn't sound right. Eureka Height.
Now you're Asian. Sorry. I guess. I mean,
And on that note,
I think on that note,
we will sign off. I have been Rob.
I'm Jake. I've not been Jake. I'm always Jake.
Kind of appalled, but yeah.
Appalled.
Yeah.
That's what
Thank you for joining us.
Appalled. I'm appalled. I am not appalled, sir. You're not appalled? What the fuck?
You are appalled. I'm gonna drag this out to make you piss your pants.
So
I'm just gonna get up and go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do some.
We already signed off. What are we doing? We're not doing it anymore.
What do you call? Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. No more bashing on.
All right.
Paul. All right. Bye.
We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye. Yeah.